Gosh.
It is exciting.
We are live, y'all.
Yes.
Actually are live.
We are live.
Hey, we live.
Okay.
Everybody.
I think it's just a shock that we're actually here right now.
Right.
Hard work. So I'll get us started. I am Tasha Roberson Wing.
Hello, I am Angela Quijada Banks. Nice to be here and in community with all these amazing, beautiful women.
Hello, everyone. My name is Amani Loren Myers.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alexandria Ware.
Okay. And of course, I'm having technology issues. I don't know what happened. But hello, everyone. My name is Casey Getty, and I have she, her pronouns.
Yes. And we are so excited to be here. We are the members of the Diaries of a Black Girl in Foster Care podcast. So you'll be hearing a lot from us. And we are really excited. I think this kind of just started as something we talked about. And now actually seeing this vision come to life is like, wow, like we're really here. And so what kind of got us here in this space is the intersectionality of being like Black and a young woman poses like unique problems for Black girls in foster care. And so pretty much this podcast is a series that addresses current racial issues, disparities, stereotypes that aid in poor outcomes for Black girls who have experienced foster care. And so I guess I can give you the background story of how we came to be. And simply for me, this past summer, I focused a lot on just disparities of Black girls within the foster care system. And I had the opportunity to participate in the CCAI foster youth intern, where we had to come up with different policy concerns. And I definitely focused on the tragedy that had taken place with Ma'Khia Bryant. And so I remember having to do our final remarks, and I was talking to one of my girlfriends, just like, I do not know like what to say or what to do, but I just know that I want to make sure that this conversation continues. And I want to make sure that Ma'Khia Bryant's name is not in vain, or her death is not in vain. And she said something to me. She was like, why do you keep focusing on death? We should be focusing on her spirit and let her spirit live on. And so I stand before you today. Honestly, this is just the spirit of Ma'Khia Bryant just leading on and making sure that we create critical change within the child welfare system that is needed. And so that's honestly what brought me to the work and what has been the foundation for Diaries of a Black Girl in Foster Care. Angela, you want to talk about what brought you to the work?
Yeah. Well, when you all asked me to be a part of this, I felt like it was a no-brainer, because also thinking about my experience, several other amazing young women of color and black youth experiences, I knew that we definitely needed to elevate it. When we think about the foster care system, even though a lot of people don't want to address Black and race and those different aspects of it, we are disproportionately, our families and us, we are disproportionately made up of this system. So therefore, we should talk about those experiences. So I was very honored to be approached with this. And I'm just excited to be a part of this conversation and to really shed the light on things that happen to youth like Ma'Khia Bryant, and how we can really begin to prevent those types of tragedies in our communities moving forward.
Yes, thank you.
I think just by what both of you all have said, I definitely would agree with sort of what has inspired and brought me to the work has been, my own experience of growing up in the foster care system and just seeing myself as someone who could have been Ma'Khia Bryant. I remember when, I was in high school and, got into a fight and pushed a white teacher in the midst of it and got sent to an alternative school for that, and was about to be expelled. But thankfully, someone saw and heard about the experiences that I experienced as a young Black girl in the foster care system, and to know that someone took that chance on me, which shouldn't have been a chance in general. We all make mistakes, and we all deserve to benefit from being able to uh, have second chances. And so being able to have second and third chances in my life, which have not always been easy, is what really has spotlighted me to really hone in on this work. But more importantly, recently losing a sister to suicide was something that really reignited my mission and my drive to want to really work in this field, because my sister should be here as a young Black girl who should have had a chance. And because of her experiences in the foster care system, because of the things that she experienced, she didn't get it to have a chance to be able to live out her dreams. And so for me, my goal is to be able to live out her legacy and to share her legacy with the world. And in doing so with people that I'm inspired by. And so to be able to have been asked to be able to join all these beautiful women and their journeys, and hearing about just the advocacy that they've all done, it's something that I also really wanted to be a part of. And I'm just really glad to be here with all of you all.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, Tasha and I had a conversation, and she was like, "I want to do this," and I was like, "Okay." And then I texted her one day, and I was like, Did you really want to do this? Because if you really want to do this, I'm down." So I kind of like pushed her into doing it. And so then it's just amazing to see how it's come. And so for me, just growing up in Kansas in a lot of majority of white foster homes, and having to find my blackness going through transracial adoption, and not having those parents to talk about like when things happen to me in foster care, and how did I learn how to do my hair, and just so many things that you go through as a young Black girl in foster care that you sometimes don't have anyone to turn to, or you don't know what to do. And so I'm super excited to be along everyone here, and I'm so excited that Tashay approached me with this idea, and she let me kind of be like, yes, let's do it, we can do this, because it's needed, and it's a conversation that if we didn't have it, then who is going to? And it needs to happen now so we can shed some light on the things that happen.
Yes. Well, thank you, Alex. And I will definitely say, like, when I was asked to be a part of the podcast, I was like, yes, yes, yes. I was like, this is a definite yes, for multiple reasons. One, definitely because of what happened to Ma'Khia Bryant. I was really affected by it, considering the fact that I was that young girl in foster care, that young Black girl in foster care. Very, like, I entered foster care at the age of 14. So I was in foster care at the same time and the same age that she was. And, I remember getting into fights, but the police were never called. And the situation was always de-escalated, either whether it was by a neighbor, whether it happened in school and it was de-escalated by a teacher, or it happened in a group home that I was in. Like, we had staff to de-escalate situations like this. And I just think about, like, wow, like, what if somebody actually just tried to de-escalate the situation and nobody did not? I mean, I know she had called the police, but even, like, what if the police officer had just tried to de-escalate the situation? Like, I know, even as a social worker, I've worked in group homes and in spaces, and had to break up fights, but we weren't calling the police and no guns were being drawn. So, like, it just really really affected me. And I just thought about who I was back then as that lost, very frustrated, angry, at the world young girl in foster care, and just very grateful to still have my life, and be able to have a platform like this. So I definitely was like, yes. And to also be a part of something great with these beautiful women on here as well. That was a yes. And then the other thing was, just bringing awareness and us having platforms in child welfare. We all know that, to have a platform, to be Black and have a platform in child welfare is very important, because we all know a lot of child welfare agencies are ran by white women, and we are not seen in these spaces. So to be able to have this platform and have ourselves be seen is very important.
And can I also add, one of the reasons that I was so adamant in inviting everybody, because everybody has their own kind of unique things that they're doing in their everyday lives. And I just thought it was so important to bring different perspectives of the Black experience. It's not like every Black person is not the same, as we know. And though we all have lived experience within the foster care system, our experiences is much so different. And so, for me, I grew up in the Indiana foster care system, and we've all experienced foster care system within different states. So it was important to get different perspectives here today. And if y'all don't mind, I want to I just want y'all to go around and just say some of the things that y'all are doing. Y'all are phenomenal women, and I just want to uplift the different things that y'all are doing in y'all everyday lives. We got authors, we got entrepreneurs, business owners up in here.
Don't forget to uplift yourself and the things that you are doing too.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, so you going first.
Right.
Yeah, so right now, I am finishing up my master's in social work and master's of public administration at
Yes, welcome to the club.
So I'm just hoping to be done in May. I'm gonna change that. I will be done in May.
I was gonna say,
Woo,
it will be
yes.
done in May. That's the way to put it into existence.
Yes.
All right. Was that okay?
Yeah.
I published my book in 2020, the Black Foster Youth Handbook, 50 plus lessons I learned to successfully age out of foster care and holistically heal. Didn't realize how long that subtitle was until I just said it right now. That fast. From there I started the Soulful Liberation Movement, liberation of self and community, which has evolved into a company providing holistic health coaching, programming, consulting, workshops, and trainings. It's been an amazing journey thus far, and I'm honored to be here with you all. And thank you, Tasha, for the space to share that.
Yes, I needed you to.
Yeah, and following behind my sister, I just published my first book, memoir titled "You Are the Prize: Seeing Yourself Beyond the Imperfections of Your Trauma." I am a motivational speaker and a consultant, and just working to sort of uplift this work so that other young people and people who've experienced similar things to us know that they themselves are the prize. You can find my book on Amazon and Kobo. And and there's more to come.
And also grab yourself a copy of You Are the Prize. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. And Angela's book too. And workbook.
Alex, I think you muted.
Sorry, my mouse was acting weird. Didn't want to work, technology. So currently I work in 4-H youth development. So I do all things like helping youth find their spark. But on the side, I own a consulting business, Where Consulting. Make sure you follow us on IG, Facebook, all those good things. So we provide educational consulting, coaching and mentoring, trainings and workshops. And then I am in the process of opening a transitional living here in Wichita, Kansas, for our alumni who have aged out of the system. Because as we know, those youth have a lot of homelessness going on. And so really providing a space for them to heal. And just be their authentic self and being able to work on that. So make sure you also follow Culture Creations, because we are trying to be out here helping these young people create some culture and healing. And besides that, I just, hang out with my girls. So we do podcasts and we just we just have fun, and live life. So yes, thank you.
Yes. And so I am a national child welfare expert and consultant. I currently work at the Center for the Study of Social Policy, working on the Youth Thrive Initiative as their senior program analyst. Thank y'all. And I also am owner of So Educated, which is a LLC that provides.
Yes.
I should have worn mine.
That provides blue stoles, the things that you wear around your neck, because some people get confused, but they are blue stoles that are given to not only young people but adults as well who have aged out of foster care, to help not only celebrate their achievement, because it is an achievement, but also to bring awareness to the less than 3% of people who age out of foster care that are graduating with their 4-year degree. So you can follow us on Instagram at so_educated. And then also in my spare time, and they're probably going to laugh at me, but in my spare time, I like to craft. I am owner of K of All Trades, where I do DIY projects and I create content, and you can follow me on TikTok and on Instagram as well. And yeah, I'm just here as a co-host of this amazing podcast that we're launching today. So with these beautiful queens.
Yes. Thank y'all for sharing. So now we're going to shift over to the bulk, the juice of our conversation today. And before I start, it is so easy to come on here and talk about Black girls in foster care from a deficit lens. And when I was thinking about, like, when it comes to change what side I wanted to be on, I did not want to be on the side of presenting and talking about Black girls from a deficit. So as we talk today, we're going to be talking about, like, what it means to have safety, but also what it means, like, to have protective factors. Like, we all know, well, I'm not going to say we all know, but when it comes to Black girls in society, it has definitely been some research that showed that Black girls are seen as needing less nurturing, less protection, less support, the less need to be comfort, and they're seen as more independent and less innocent as their white counterparts. And today we just want to take the time to uplift Black girls and show that really in America, it is really a privilege to be innocent. And so today I just want to shape our conversation about our experience being in foster care and what it meant to be safe. It also protective factors that, caseworkers and those working in the child welfare system, what they can be looking for to help nurture our Black girls throughout the system, and so that we can have these better outcomes. And so my first question for the group is, how do you define safety within child welfare? And if you can recall just your experience, what does safety look like? And so we can start anywhere on this one.
I wasn't sure if Monty was going or not. So I can start. So
I'm thinking.
Okay. So I can start, as I was thinking about, the podcast today and the questions around what I started to ask myself, what did safety look like for me when I was in foster care? And to be quite honest with y'all, like, safety for me was either school or it was either work. Like, I recall a time where I didn't even have to work that day, but I left my foster home acting like I was going to work, and I wasn't even on the shift. And I just sat there like as if I was at work all day, just chilling with my coworkers. And at the time I was working at McDonald's. But I was sitting there chilling with my coworkers all day until like I had to go back to the foster home because I did not feel safe there at all. Like I just did not feel heard or anything like that. And like I would miss the days like when we didn't have school. Like I would be upset that we would have a holiday because I really like found like those hours spent at school were like the safe hours, and I would find things to do after school. I was always like trying to be in a sport so I could stay longer, because it was a distraction. It was a distraction for me, and it was like my safe haven, because I did not have to be in a toxic environment, because a lot of my foster homes at the time were toxic and they weren't helpful. And, you know, there were only a few workers that I can remember. And quite frankly, they were the transport workers that would take me to my visits to see my parents, that where I could have honest conversations with them and tell them what was going on in the foster homes and stuff like that. And they would be like, well, why don't you tell your worker? And I'm like, because they don't listen. And they're like, oh, well, you know, it's going to be okay and stuff like that. And they always did encourage me. And, you know, I'm still in contact with a few of them till this day. And, you know, but it was, though, I just remember that's where safety was for me and what it looked like for me in foster care.
Yeah, I think it's interesting just to also comment on the collective because it reaffirms, you know, it reaffirms and it validates, you know, your experiences. Because I think that many times when we've gone through difficult things, you know, many of our experiences have been minimized. And so as you were speaking, Casey, and talking about, you know, you found safety outside of your foster home, you know, for me, I think about just the different experiences I had in care. So I grew up in kinship care first, where I grew up with my great aunt and my 3 other siblings. And then I moved with my mom for 2 years. And then I went into foster care at the age of 12 and then aged out. And I remember, you know, the first time for me feeling safe was with my siblings. You know, there were 3 of us. And from the very beginning, we talked about, you know, creating a pact with each other, you know, and I think that even though we had been experiencing some really difficult and hard things, I think there is some sort of comfort in going through a struggle together because you know you're not alone and you know that what you're experiencing is real. And even though we were trying to navigate how to come from under that, you know, it was really difficult because as kids, you know, one of the things that I think that tends to get minimized are our voices. And so we're not being listened to. And so you even mentioned that, you know, you tell the social worker and the social worker isn't, you know, really on your side as they're supposed to be. And it doesn't feel safe. And so when I got separated from my siblings, who were the 2 most important people at that time where I felt safe and to be removed from that, I think that was really difficult. And so the other thing that I had growing up when I was growing up with my great aunt was the church. And even though I was, you know, I was that kid that wasn't really, you know, into church or wasn't really, I was really involved, but I couldn't always connect. But the thing that I could connect with was community. And so being able to connect with the community there was something that was a safe haven for me. So even after school, you know, even if, you know, there wasn't a church service going on, my aunt worked at the church as a secretary and I'd just hang out at the church with her. I'd hang out there, you know, because I knew that there would be food. I knew that there would be community and I knew that I would feel safe. And so I think that many of these times when we talk about safety, oftentimes we think about it in the realm of what does it mean to feel physically safe? As much as you need to feel physically safe, you need to also feel emotionally safe. You need to feel spiritually safe. You need to feel all types of safety. And so being able to experience that in my group of siblings was something that I will continually to cherish. And I think it's really helped me understand safety. But at the same time, I did not always feel safe. And I think that that's where a lot of, you know, my anxiety today stems from is even though I may be safe, it still doesn't always feel safe. And so I have to remind myself that I'm safe.
Yeah, and if I can just add on that really quick, I think 2 important concepts that came up was not just thinking of safety within the physical realm, but also like school. I think for me, that was a safe haven for me, definitely school. In church, because I feel like everybody's going to be on their best behavior at church because you guys,
Yes. Agreed.
when I thought about like safety, and especially in my time in care, I don't know if I've ever truly felt safe. I think, being honest, like, I am a big presenting Black girl, and the fear of those feeling intimidated by me, like, has always been something that was in the back of my mind that did not allow me to put my barriers down to feel safe. And so I just wanted to echo the education system as a safe haven.
I think for me, similar to what Amani was saying about siblings, my siblings prior to being into foster care were definitely my place of refuge and extremely an extreme survival tool, I think, in itself, like being able to bond together and go through the crazy, horrific situations together. And I was placed into kinship care originally, and it didn't work out. So we ended up having to be separated. And that was really, really difficult because we already collectively didn't feel safe. And I definitely agree with you, Tasha. I never felt safe in the child welfare system, but at least I had my siblings until I didn't. And everything just kind of felt overwhelming, more overwhelming than it already was. Another thing that was a great, I guess, safety thing for me was having connection to social media. So like actually having a phone. And I know a lot of youth are not allowed to have a phone, and, you know, there's all these other stipulations and reasons of why people find ways to take the phone. But honestly, that was a really huge lifeline for me to be able to connect with other people online, connect with my birth family as much as I could. There was always reasons why my phone was confiscated, like literally at least 10 times out of the week. So that was very frustrating. And also in the time when I finally, so I signed myself back into the system at 18, and I actually was not able to age out. I was forcibly kicked out because I was reporting an unsafe placement where people were coming in and out of, well, men were coming in and out of the foster home, because I'm not really sure what was going on with my foster parent. I don't know if she had like a midlife crisis or what was going on, but she was dating pretty heavily, and no judgment there. But I was in college trying to, you know, continue moving forward in my journey. And there were a lot of things that were going on that made me not feel safe. And so I was trying to communicate that with a case manager. My social worker was not involved at the time. She actually had retired after getting into a car accident with my brother when we were on our way to a sibling visit. So she just decided to retire that day. So I didn't have a social worker, and I didn't have a guardian ad litem, also called a CASA in different states. She was removed from my case a year prior because I was in between placements at the time, and my guardian ad litem didn't agree with my social worker, who said that I should spend the night at a airport over the weekend. And so my guardian ad litem was like, absolutely not. You're going to be staying at my house, even though that was completely against the rules. And so my social worker didn't like that and made sure to report her. And that particular agency that she was with told her she needed to be removed from the case. So she just kind of stepped down altogether. So no, I've never felt safe. And even all the way to the end of when I got that 7-day notice, because simply trying to explain to someone that I didn't feel safe, and it escalated to, why are you telling people, you know, what's going on in my house, and all these things. And I didn't want anything bad to happen to the foster parent, but I also wanted to feel safe. I wanted to continue on my own goals and dreams and be able to see my siblings. And I didn't want to be put in a not great situation. And, you know, me and my foster parent, I don't think we were aligned in our goals and morals and other things. Because she would offer me to like drink alcohol, and I was like 19. all kinds of stuff. All kinds of stuff. So
Excuse my facial expressions.
all kinds of things. So I
Things
was
could
just
be
like,
going on in your home.
I don't think this is the best place for me. I really think that I could be served better in another place. So safety, like for me, really looked like my siblings and really looked like at least connection to the internet, connection to my birth family, which ironically the system said wasn't fit to take care of me.
Thank you.
Yeah, safety for me was my older brother and the education. So I was considered like a bad kid in foster care. I acted up all the time. I'll admit it. I gave my social worker and foster parents a lot of grief. I'm not afraid to admit that. But when my judge decided to split me and my brother up like that hurt us both for a long time because my brother, him being older, he's the older one. As we know in black families, you're the oldest kid, you're supposed to protect the younger kid. So that he like took that seriously, like it was his life goal, it was his mission. I mean, even to this day, he's 30, I'm 29, he still be like, oh, you can't do this, you can't act like this, like I need to protect you. And I'd be like, I'm grown, mind your business. Like, but it was in one foster home we were in together where me and my brother made a pact. We made a pact that if we ever found our biological family and they were like nuts and cuckoo, it would always be me and him against the world. And we still have that pact to this day. I mean, my brother is he gets on my nerves, but he's probably one of my favorite people. Like he just came over this weekend and I was like, here, have all these dishes I don't need. And he was like, thanks. Now I don't have to buy more stuff for my house. And I was like, perfect. But once I lost him, I really relied on education. So I would get in trouble at school, but it was because I was so smart and I would get bored. And then I'd be like, let me just get in trouble because I would go sit in the principal's office and the principal would be like, why are you getting in trouble? I know you're only getting in trouble because you're bored in class. Why don't you just tell people that? I'm like, tell people that. We don't talk about my feelings where I'm from. Like we don't do that, buddy. Like I get in trouble, you tell me you're gonna have ISS or you're gonna go back to class and you're gonna act right and let's not do this again. Then we would do it again. And I'd be like, listen, sir, this is a game to me. Like, I feel safe here. I want you to put me in ISS or give me after school detention so I don't have to go home to foster homes. And even though I had an amazing foster home in my teenage years, it was really when I was a kid where I was like, ooh, you want me to be with these random people and my brother's not here to protect me? And I didn't realize that until I started going to therapy and just talking about the things that I've been through that like in care, like once I lost my brother, I was like, oh, so y'all just expect me to protect myself. I'm a kid. I'm
Mhm.
a girl. I can't be safe in these homes by myself. But then also for most of my life, I was always big. So I always had to have that front of nothing was wrong with me. You couldn't mess with me. I already knew people were intimidated by me. So I also had to put that on so then I could feel safe. So if someone would try and hug me, I'd be like, man, don't touch me. You don't know me, because as a bigger person, I already knew like people were already scared of me. So why not use that to my advantage? Which helped me be safe, which is crazy for some people because, as you said, Tasha, like it was like you already knew people were gonna be intimidated by you. It was like I was using it to keep me away from people, to not
Mm.
let anyone in emotionally, physically, or whatever. So then that way, people didn't have to. I didn't have to worry about anybody trying to get close to me. But now as an adult, I feel like my safety is peace. I don't
Mm.
deal with nobody who causes. If you take away my peace, you gotta go. You gotta go. And I think it's a big change from where I came from. Is like if you're not peaceful, you're not bringing that peace to my life. I don't want to be around you.
Wow. Woo, girl, that was good.
That's it.
It sounds like what we're hearing is a big part of safety is that sibling connection. And it really made, when y'all were talking about like just like the older siblings, it made me think about my siblings because I'm actually like the oldest of 9 siblings. And going into care, I definitely was like ready to bump with anybody that was gonna mess with my sister. Erica, if you on this call, girl, you know I'm going to bat for you, girl. But I wonder because it was a time where me and my sister actually got split up. I ended up running away because once again I did not feel safe and I just took a run for it. So I'm like a 14-year-old out here in the streets of Indianapolis, just looking for that safe haven. And when you were saying like being split up from your brother and not having that protection, it just made me think about like, wow, like how did my sister feel, and little sisters feel like when I wasn't there? Did they feel protected? So that might be like some healing things that me and my siblings have to talk about, because I never looked at it from that perspective. So definitely thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that you say that, Hasia and Alexandria, because that was something that, like, my when we first got separated, my brother and I were placed together, and my little sister was not. And this is something that I mean, even just the fact of us, excuse me, even just for the fact of us finding out that, we were not going to be together. We found out when we went into our first foster home, and she was dropping us off, and we found out that my little sister wasn't going to be joining us. And it wasn't until years later. I mean, I was always sad to not have my little sister with us. It was something I just never understood why she was separated from us. And and thinking back, she had a lot of behavioral issues that she struggled with, and so she ended up going into group homes, versus my brother and I stayed in like a foster family, and then I got separated from my brother a little later on. But one of the things that you bring up is something that she brought up, a few years before she passed away. She was very angry, the fact that she didn't feel protected by us, for, like, she felt like we should have, I think she felt like she was upset that she didn't get to stay with us. And it wasn't something that I couldn't even process, when you first go into foster care, um, because it's not something that you think about. You're just thinking about, why isn't this person here with you? But I think in a lot of ways felt like an outsider as to why she wasn't, placed with us. And then at the same time, as soon as we went into foster care, my mother got pregnant and had my little brother, and so she got to keep him. And so I think that there's all sorts of dynamics that are at play when we separate families, that I feel that a lot of child welfare people don't even recognize or understand. And so when you talk about that healing aspect of your siblings, I definitely think you should, talk with them and get their perspective. But I don't think it's a place for you to blame yourself, because, like you said, you yourself didn't feel safe. And I think oftentimes we tend to blame the wrong kind of people. I think we need to blame the system for the decisions that they have made. And something that Angela said earlier, that I could definitely relate to is, I couldn't understand, why was it that I was being separated from my mother, but then to go into foster homes where they weren't safe, or they felt a little worse off than where I was living before. And so I definitely think that there is a lot of healing, a lot of accountability, a lot of just recognition of these experiences, especially as we all go through our own healing modalities to figure out sort of who we are today. And our siblings are the ones that have, in a lot of ways, have created who we are. And to be separated from that, I would say, is a really difficult thing.
Yeah, yeah, I wanted to jump in here as well, because it was interesting to hear all of your perspectives. Because when I entered foster care, I actually was separated from my siblings as well. We never actually, matter of fact, I never actually lived with them ever again. When we entered foster care, that was like the last time that I ever lived with them. And my three youngest siblings wound up getting readopted after we had entered care. And then my older sibling, she kind of went off and did her own thing, because we were the two oldest, and so we just kind of lingered in foster care until we aged out. But we never, that really damaged the relationships that we have now. We, like you, Tasha, we have some work to do. We have a lot of work to do. But it just, and just to see where all of us have ended up in life is just really interesting. And I just wonder, what life would have been like had we had all been placed together. That's one of the things with the child welfare system. I have 4 siblings, and nobody is taking 5 kids. No foster home is taking 5 kids in. So we all wound up getting split up, except for my 2 youngest siblings. They actually wound up going to, or they weren't placed in the same foster home at the first time, but they wound up being together in the end. And so, like, obviously their relationship is a lot different than my relationship with them. And I wound up not being able to, because they were adopted, that cut off all types of sibling connection, because once you're adopted, you don't have to, the adoptive parents can restrict you from having any communication with anyone prior to your adoption. And so that's kind of just what happened. And we all kind of found each other later on in life when we became adults, when everybody became adults. But, the relationship looks very different now.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And so I'm just going to let this conversation flow. So now y'all got me kind of jumping around here because it's really good. And so as we talked about safety and what it meant to, feel safe, like when you were in care, did you ever feel empowered? And what did that look like?
I can start this one off. So I would say I felt empowered when I told my judge that I wanted to find my older sister, and talk to my siblings again. I told them that I wasn't going to work my case plan until they found my siblings. And I tell my nieces and nephews, my family, this all the time. I'm thankful for my brother-in-law's brother who was in juvie the day before me, because that's what started the process of us finding each other. So a guard recognized my face and was like, wasn't your sister just here? And if she's watching, she knows this story. But I was like, no, I ain't got no sister. I know her name, but she don't mess with me. I don't mess with her. I don't know her like that. And so I told him her name, and he was like, nah, she was here yesterday. Like, I know she was. And I was like, well, that doesn't mean she's my sister just because she was here. Like, for me, it was like, I don't know her because the last time I seen her, I was so young. But it was one of those things where ultimately me and my brother had to have a conversation, our worker said, of was he okay with us finding our biological family and our sister, because our judge didn't want to do anything that I just wanted to do that he didn't want to do. Because again, he was that protective force. So he was like, well, I guess if you want to find them, then I can get on board, I'll be behind you. And so it really empowered me to know, like, my judge listens to me. I told her, I'm not doing this until you find this, because this is what I need. This is what I need to succeed. This is what I need to know where I came from. And her allowing me to be empowered. And I mean, I know the group home was probably like, this girl is crazy. Like, she thinks she's really about to find them. And I remember I was in the nurse's office, and my case manager, who I had from the time I entered care to the time I exited care, called and was like, hey, I have somebody here who wants to talk to you. And I was like, okay. And my sister said, hey, sissy. I said, I don't know who that is, because I didn't recognize her voice because it had been so long. And she was like, that's your sister. I said, that's not my sister. I was like, stop playing, because y'all did not find my sister that fast. And so I was like, if she's my sister, then I'm really about to quiz you. So I quizzed my older sister. I asked her when I was born, where I was born, where was the scar on my foot, what toe it was on, how it happened. And I was like, if she can get all these right, then there's a big chance she's my sister. And when she got them all right, I was like, oh, like, for real, she's like, this is my older sister. She was like, I don't know why you quizzing me. I am your sister. I said, well, I don't know that. How am I supposed to trust the state that they found the person who is my sister? And our sibling relationship, just like everyone else's, has work to do, because we didn't grow up together. But it was that moment I knew that I could tell my judge I wanted this, or I needed this, or whatever else, they would listen to me. And I think that really helped to know that I had a judge who stood behind me in what I wanted.
I really love this question, because definitely a lot of times where I felt powerless. And so I love the reflection on when did I feel empowered? When did we feel empowered? When I first was placed into foster care, I had no hope. or very little, maybe out of 100%, 2%, if that, about the outcomes of my life, any of those things. And I eventually was connected with a therapist, and she really allowed a space for me to just recount my entire life experiences, including pretty much each and every trauma that I experienced up until that time. So I was like 16. And that was very empowering for me because these were things that were just kind of like floating around in my head and like, my God, did that happen? You know, all those things. And to actually be able to verbalize it, and to have someone after I said all of that to look at me and say, you're still like worthy of continuing in your life. You still have a whole life ahead of you. You're only 16. You can go to college, like whatever your dreams are, you can do them. That was extremely empowering to me. Probably the first thing that really started getting me like, okay, like I'm going to live past 18 maybe, you know, like all these other different thoughts started going, and like, okay, I can really do this, as well as my therapist, Dr. Regina Gavin Williams. And then, as well as my guardian ad litem, Liza Weidel. And she really advocated a lot, really, really hard for me on so many different things, including me to be able to stay in the high school that I was in and to finish out with my class. It took me a while to be able to make friends because I was just really not trying to talk to people about my life. And so to be able to finally do that, and then the system being like, well, we can move you, and, you know, right on my senior year, that was very devastating. And so she made sure that I was going to be able to graduate with my class, and I did. And the last thing that I want to share as far as being empowered is with the Hope Center at Pullin in Raleigh, North Carolina. And I was mute when I got placed into care, and right before then. And so for several months, I didn't speak. I just wrote notes. And there was a lot of reasons for that. Just the way that trauma showed up for me, I just didn't see the point in talking anymore. I was like, my voice doesn't matter. I don't matter. But the Hope Center at Pullin gave me an opportunity to write my poetry and actually be able to share it and put it in a book. And so the poem was titled A Life in Silence, and just recounting different experiences that I had in poverty, and some of the traumas that I experienced. And that made me feel empowered because after sharing it, even though I was like shaking and crying and about to fall out and faint from stage fright, it made me like understand that I was capable of doing these different things and that people cared.
Thank you for sharing that. And as you were speaking, I think it came very clear that between you and Alex, what made you all feel empowered was just your voice being heard, listened to. And it reminded me of, like, I would say I felt empowered and care in a similar situation of just feeling heard. Like, I was getting ready. I just turned 18, got kicked out of one placement into a new one. And, you know, that 18 area is kind of scary because you like, I don't know what's about to happen next. Let me figure this out. And so I'm getting kicked out of one placement. I'm like, okay, I'm in a new placement. Like, what is about to happen? Like, what is my life about to look like? And I remember, you know, being a junior in high school, and I had done everything right to direct my path towards college. But now my path was interrupted because I'm in a new place. And I remember, one, not feeling safe. Like, I would be like, oh, I got a track meet. I did not have a track meet. I just would go to my friend's house and come back late. And it got really bad to the point where, like, one night, the my foster mom, I came in late because she said after 10 p.m. nothing's open, but y'all know the last legs. And so I'm like, girl, I'm not on that. But like I'm 18, I should be able to enjoy it. And this time I came back a little too late, like 15 minutes late. And so I walked in the house and I'm like, cool, I got through the front door. I just need to get to the room next. So in my head, I'm like, couple more steps. Here she come in this robe. If y'all know me, when I get nervous, I start laughing. And nothing is funny. I just don't know how to respond in the moment. And I just remember her looking at me and was like, why would you disrespect my house? And I'm like, ma'am, I'm not trying to, but I'm giggling. And I'm like, this is not the time to be laughing, Tasha. Like, get it together. And so, long story short, me and her kind of had a tussle at the door. And I remember her looking at me saying, I'm not scared of you. And I'm just like, girl, why would I want you to be scared of me? But then again, I realized here I am as a big Black girl. Like, I don't need you to be scared of me. But what really got me was she was like, she opened the door and was like, I hope you can run. You about to see how sneaky I can really be. And I'm like, I ain't running nowhere. And so I knocked on this random door, and I swear to you, I cannot make this up. And I asked the man, like, hey, can I use your phone to call the police? Because my foster mom is doing a little too much. And he like, no, she wouldn't do that. And so in that moment, I realized, like, you're really on your own. And so I made it across, like, this little ditch type of thing. And my mom came and picked me up. But in that moment, I was like, wow, like, I really have to take up for myself, advocate for myself. And I remember going to school and they told me about a guardian ad litem. I never known that I had one of those, a CASA, any of that. And what really got me was, do y'all know I called the supervisor of the supervisor? If she didn't answer, I called the other supervisor. When I found I had a CASA, I kept calling them to the point where they was like, you are literally doing too much. But I felt empowered because in that moment, I knew I was not saying, like, taking no for an answer. I was going to get the help that I need. And I ended up getting like a different placement. And finally the guardian ad litem like really helped me to, like, one, not sign out of care. He listened to my concerns, and it just made a world of difference, and definitely made me feel empowered just having somebody to listen and say, hey, like, this is what I need, like, I want to go to college, like, just it made a difference. So I echo what you all had spoke of, is about, somebody to hear you and listen to you helps make you feel empowered and care.
Yeah, I definitely echo that as well. I definitely felt empowered the first time when I was able to finally, like, go and speak to the judge and tell them, like, what I wanted to do with my life, where I saw myself going. It was being able to go to those court hearings, which is why it's so important to allow young people to attend their permanency hearings, so they can speak for themselves. Like, it's one thing to have your guardian ad litem speak for you, and to also have your caseworker speak for you. But I really think it's powerful and it means something when it's coming from you, because it's your experience. And that's what I tell young people all the time. And that's what I started telling my caseworkers and anybody that was working for me. At the end of the day, like, you get to go home to your family, to your kids, to your husband, whoever you with. You get to see your parents whenever you want to on holidays. I don't get to do that. So at the end of the day, like, you don't have to live the life that I live. I have to live this life. And so I should be the one to be able to make the decisions as to what is going to happen in my life. Not you. And quite frankly, I don't know what you're saying in the courtroom, so I need to be there. So I would definitely say that was the first time. And then the second time when I really started to feel empowered, is when I got involved into youth advocacy and being a part of youth advisory boards. And child, when I tell y'all, the worst and best thing they could have did for foster youth in New Jersey is to let us know how to search policy and read it. Because yes, I learned what it meant to go up the chain. And if your caseworker is not answering the phone, you could call their supervisor. And if you can't get in touch with the supervisor, you call their supervisor.
That part.
I learned what that meant. Because and And I don't mean it in like a rude way or anything like that. But like I said before, like at the end of the day, we're the ones that have to live this life. And if I'm not getting what I need, and I vowed to myself after I left foster homes, I would never be in a place where I no longer get what I need. Like y'all are like y'all are going to give me what I need because you are the people that are my quote unquote guardians. And so if my parent was here, they would give me what I need and nurture me and take care of me. But so you are the state and you're going to be my guardian. So I'm going to make sure that I have what I need. And so, and I'm going to also teach young people to make sure they get what they need as well. And so being a part of those youth advisory boards and youth councils and learning how to advocate for yourself and then teaching how to advocate for others who can't speak for themselves or aren't in a place to speak for themselves, and changing policy and stuff like that is really where I started to feel empowered and really wanted to help other young people feel empowered, because nothing is stronger than your voice and speaking up for yourself. So
Yeah, I feel like Casey, I probably should have grew up in foster care with you, because I went to Jersey because I grew up in Boston, and it's interesting because growing up, I honestly didn't feel empowered. I actually felt really disempowered, and I know that I come, as it's interesting, like when you grow older and you begin to see, a lot of the characteristics of, your parents within you. And those are things that I cherish now because, they both were, I feel like my mom was the one that was doing a lot of the advocacy, but she was not always doing it in the way that was always beneficial, because one of my placements got sabotaged because she was, I think that one of the things that she felt was that she felt like this foster parent was making all these decisions and she didn't really get to have a say, whereas my foster mother was like, I don't understand, if she was being a parent, why are you all not with her? And so now as an adult, I see that a lot of my advocacy efforts and a lot of the ways that I've felt empowered was actually through my mom. And it didn't happen until I was older, though. And I think it was more so when I learned that I wasn't alone. That growing up in foster care, I wasn't really growing up with other people that had grown up in foster care, so I thought I was alone. And so when I got accepted into the Congressional Coalition on Adoption Institute and was surrounded by amazing other individuals who grew up in foster care, that was my first experience and first time being and shown a platform where I recognized that I could use my voice to advocate for change. And so the biggest and best thing that they could have done for us was allowing us to, research and write policy reports about things that we wanted to change in foster care. And so I focused on trauma informed training for caregivers, because I was like, there's no way that, these foster parents, how could they not be trained in trauma when the fact of us leaving our homes is a traumatic experience within itself? So how are they not being trained? And then when we enter into care, we typically experience more trauma. And then when we exit care, we have to deal with that trauma. And so for me, being among other young people who had a voice and showed me that my experiences, that I wasn't alone, I said, okay, wow, like, I'm definitely going to be empowered. I would also say that a sense of empowerment also came from my little sister. And the thing about it is that when you think about the dynamics, and people say, oh yeah, Monty, you're confident, you're all of these things. But in reality, growing up, I was the middle child, but my sister, who was younger than I, she was someone who was really bossy. She was like a know-it-all. She was stubborn. So, and my brother, he was somebody who was just, he was like angry, and he was also bossy and all sorts of things. And so I sort of kind of fell in line. And so I was in a lot of ways like the little sister. And so I didn't really speak much because in a lot of ways they spoke for me. I was the one who was sneaky, so I knew how to do things. So, hey, we need some food. I'm gonna go to the store and steal some food, and I'll come back. And because the what do you call it? The beauty of innocence. I looked innocent, so nobody would suspect that I'm going to the store stealing stuff. So I could do that and get away with it and be sneaky. And so we all sort of learned how to tune into our own skills in that way. And it's so, I guess in that way that is empowering, because you're surviving in that way. But I think for me, in all honesty, like my sense of empowerment came, I feel like it was brewing as a kid. And even though when I was in high school, I was often speaking up for other people and not necessarily for myself. And so I remember my high school teacher, no, my high school principal said, Amani, I remember when you were a high school student and you didn't you were always about fairness and you wanted things to be fair. Now I know it's about equity. But at that time it was like, I don't understand why, this is happening and that's not happening. But it was often for someone else and not necessarily for myself. And so I'm at a place now, right, where having to sort of sift through and work through all of my trauma, I'm now at a place where I am redefining what is a sense of empowerment mean for me. And what does my sense of empowerment mean for me outside of my experiences of someone who grew up in care? And I think that's the hardest thing that I'm learning right now. And even who am I outside of my experiences? And I know that those things can't be separated, but those are the things that I feel that are a sense of empowerment for me. And being able to hear all of you all speak, like I said, that sense of validation, it's like, dang, like it's also bringing me back to, when I was in care. And, it brings up all kinds of memories. And so I'm really enjoying being able to sort of share and talk with you all about these experiences. Because again, our sense of empowerment comes from each other because we recognize that we're not alone and that the experiences that we had, even though we experienced those maybe in silos, that together, we're not alone. And so that's for me is a empowerment in itself.
And definitely thank you for sharing that. That connectedness and this community can go a long way. And I know, like previous to coming on today's live, we talked about protective factors. A lot of times we talk about risk factors and these negative outcomes, but we talked about what are some protective factors that can help aid more positive outcomes for Black girls. And I really believe it's that connected. Can I talk today? Being connected, because like I said, once I got older, I never really interacted with other Black girls who had experienced care. And so once I started getting into spaces like this and being able to connect, it really helped shape my outcome. Like I can't say that I would be in this position if I hadn't met like other women who have experienced care or just mentors who knew what I was dealing with. And that really was that protective factor that has shaped my outcome.
And I think I think the other aspect that we have to bring to the table too is like this sort of narrative that's also been spun for Black women that we've had to be strong. So we've been in situations where we've grown up with, I'm sure, with strong caregivers, and as Black women having to carry that it's hard, because sometimes you don't always feel strong. But like you said, being in community with all of you all, like I feel, like I said, I don't feel like I have to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders alone, because I know that I have 4 other powerful sisters and more, out there that are also carrying this work, and we're trying to do it together. And there are times where we're not strong, and there are times where we are not feeling okay. And how do we also sort of allow that to also be shared in the space too, because oftentimes we're not allowed to be that way. And I would say that even for Ma'Khia Bryan, and even for, I'm not sure if you remember a few years ago when that young Black girl, when the police officer came into her classroom and like knocked her over and was tussling with her, and she had just went into foster care that day, and she had to be strong that day. And because she wasn't given the grace to be strong, to not be strong, I think that there were so many consequences that went with it. And so really wanting to highlight that in the space too is really important.
Yeah, and I just also want to highlight on the as we're on the topic of protective factors is not only not only social connections, but also social capital. As Tasha was talking about, being in the different spaces with mentors and other Black women to uplift other Black women and put them into spaces where they can be themselves, but also catapult who they are as professionals as well. One of the things that we don't, like Tasha, I did not have, like, although I was in most of my foster homes were with Black women, I just felt like I was not empowered like I should have been. I was not in the spaces where I had mentors growing up until I got into my adulthood. Well, after 18, when I got into adulthood, you know, but I feel like I would have benefited from that when I was younger, in my foster homes, being able to go to different like support groups or different just activities with other Black girls to understand like what it's that I'm not here alone, like you said, Amani. And I really didn't feel that until I was placed in residential programs and in group homes where I was just like, oh, so I'm not the only one in foster care, although I knew that, but I just wasn't able to like see that, and being able, I actually was very successful when I went into group homes, whereas when I was in foster homes I was always getting kicked out of them because I just felt like nobody understood what I was going through. But when I was in group homes, like, I had that sense of community, and people to talk to about what I was going through and share experiences. And then it, went up a level when I started to get involved on different national opportunities and was like, oh, there are a lot of people that are in foster care across the United States. Like, wow. Like, I just did, like, it was just like shocking to me. Like, oh my gosh, like this just doesn't just happen in New Jersey. It happens all over. So yeah, just being able to see that, and then also being put in different spaces. But I do believe that if young Black girls in foster care are able to see this platform that we have right here and other platforms, it would create a sense of community for them and an empowerment for them to be able to see like, oh, I could be like them. I don't have to be like, my story is not the end all be all, and where I'm sitting at right now in life is not does not determine my destiny.
Does anybody else want to share? I want to kind of be cognizant of time as we just came up on the hour.
I personally just loved everything that you all said. I don't know, my voice is going away, but I loved everything that you all said, and I just agree 1,000%. Community, holding spaces to heal, going back within yourself, and challenging the way that you see yourself in your trauma, and really asking those questions: Who am I outside of my trauma? And not just the trauma of foster care, but as a Black, as a Black girl, who who am I? What does that really mean, in my spaces, in professional arenas, in personal relationships? Am I carrying on too much? Am I continuously putting myself in situations where I have to be strong because I'm just used to it? Those things are extremely important, and I think that's part of the work that I'm also doing and uncovering as we speak.
I love everything everyone said, and I'm so glad we decided to do this. And I hope any young Black girl who's watching in foster care, however you identify, know that this space is for you. It is by people who look like you, for it to be healing, for it to be educational, for you to learn how to advocate for yourself. So I'll just speak on behalf of all of us. I know that they're glad we're here to help young Black girls because we could have used a space like this when we were younger.
Yeah, I just want to say that it's been helpful to just want to shout out even people in the comments who've been supporting and cheering us on through this process. I think that we all were nervous before we started this, and we did some deep breathing, and we did some of that cool meditation and all that good stuff, box breathing. To try it out. But I think I think ultimately, I just want people to also know that they're not alone, and even though you may feel alone, it's okay. Um, but it's to also to know that uh, there's community here, people that want to support you, that do love you and are here for you, and that even though you may be experiencing some really difficult, challenging things right now, that you have a community of supportive sisters here that want to walk alongside you. And so I just want to thank everyone who showed up, and who also sees this as being a benefit for them in their communities. Please take this back to your communities, and to just sort of share this with other Black girls, and also those who may not identify, but know that this place is a safe space for you.
Yes, I just want to echo that as well. Thank you, everyone. I see your comments. We all see your comments. So we want to say thank you for encouraging us and pushing us, to all of you who have been following us as well. If you aren't following us, you can follow us on social media. We are on all of them, I believe. Instagram, Facebook.
I did not see the comments.
We on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We aren't on LinkedIn yet, but we'll be on there too. And you can follow us at the @ BLKGRL Diaries FC. And that is our handle, hashtag as well. But we want to thank everyone for definitely tuning in tonight. And I think Tasha is going to let us know what is next for the podcast.
And also thank you, Casey, for being our wonderful social media manager.
Yes.
Thank you.
I kind of want to shout out some of these names here, because I didn't even know there was a comments over here. I was on the private chat. I was like, what comments? Like, what's happening?
Welcome to the comments.
Ritdico, Nay, Emily, Vivian, Remy, Tet, Reach, Lydia, Exol, Byron, Nema, Shannon, Candace, Cher, Jaleesa. What would you say?
I said especially Nima was giving some shout outs. Shout out to Candace. That was my roommate.
Thank you so much.
Yes. I see some of my line sisters on here. Shout out to you. But also, before we go, I told everyone that we wanted to do a quick just like an ode to Black girls, word of encouragement. And I hope y'all don't mind if I lead. One of the reasons that this is called Diaries of a Black Girl in Foster Care is because I never really had much within the foster care system, but whatever placement I was placed in, I always had like a memory bag, and I always kept like a diary. And sometimes I didn't necessarily write words in it, and I think that was just the reflection of feeling overwhelmed. But I did write a poem, and I definitely want to take this time to dedicate it to Black girls and just say, like, I see you, you are valued in this space, and that if nobody else like gives you that affirmation that you need, like you can definitely get that from this space. And so this poem is actually called I See You. I see you hiding, but you can't hide who you really are. I see you going places. I see you being somebody. I see you living your life and meeting new faces. I see you. I see you being scared, what people might think. I see you getting over your fears. I see you. And this is so crazy to me because I actually wrote this in 2008. In the midst of going through care. And it's like, it's always good to look back and reflect on things. But if any Black girl who is experiencing foster care, and not just Black girls, like if you identify as non-binary, trans, like anybody, like if you're really going through foster care, and I know it can be hard, like we see you, we hear. Like what's her name? Nene Leak say, I see you. We see each other. So I definitely wanted to dedicate that today.
And then there was a comment on here that asked if this would be shared later. So yes, the recording will be on our Facebook, on our YouTube page. It will be shared out on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify. So give us a couple days and we will make sure to share that out to people because we want to make sure you can share with anyone in your network.
Yeah. And something
Also,
to look
oh, go ahead.
I
My
was gonna
bad.
say something to look forward to is next month we'll be here again on the 16th doing another podcast. And we'll be doing some stuff in April. So just look for it on our social medias. We'll have like the topics and everything you need to know about what's coming up. And so as we end, I'm gonna let everybody do their final remarks and say anything you want to say. I'm giving it to y'all.
Oh, okay. I
Honestly,
thought I'm on.
yeah, I don't know why I was on off mute.
It's all good.
I was
Yeah, I
gonna
just
quickly
wanted
say
to.
that. Oh my.
You good. You good, sis. Let me go on mute.
No, I was just gonna quickly say that. Just you are the prize, and just remember that. And I love all of you all, and I'm glad that we got to do this together.
Aww. Yes, I definitely love you too, and love you all. And I'm just really excited for what's to come in the next couple of episodes. Tashe, thank you for sharing that beautiful poem. I think for so long, I definitely did not feel seen, and it's just amazing how somehow we became, at one point in our lives, you feel like, I'm not going to make it. I don't know what's going to happen. Like what's next, what's going on. And somehow we fast forward here and, we're authors and business owners and, getting our master's degree, all these things. And we're seen, if not by anyone else, by each other. And so that means a lot.
Um, I just want to say that I'm grateful for everyone who showed up today, from the co-hosts to the people in the chats, to the people who are going to rewatch this, and just know that we all see you here and we all are a resource to you. And we would love to hear, well, I would love to hear what other topics besides the ones we have lined up that you may want to hear about. And just from the bottom of my heart, like, this has been a really healing experience for the last hour and a half. Like, just to sit here and have a kiki with my girls and just to be able to like be our authentic selves has been amazing. So I am so glad, Tasha, that you brought this idea and you allowed me to push you to do this, because this has been amazing. So heart clap if you were ever staff at foster club or no foster club, the little heart clap.
Yeah, that was an FYI for me.
Yep. Same.
Aww.
UCAI for me.
So I just, as we close out here, I just want to highlight the melanin magic that is on the screen right now. I'm just in awe every time all of us get on a Zoom call together. I'm just like, and even as I was like making our social media stuff, I'm just like, yes, the melanin magic that is on this flyer right now. So I do want to highlight that. All of these beautiful queens, it's been amazing to be in this space with you all. Thank you, Tashe, for, even creating this idea and having this platform. Just want to thank all of our followers and all of the people that are in the comments, to the people that are watching it now or watching it later. Please comment below when you are watching it, if you are watching it later. And again, if you have any questions or anything like that, you can feel free to email us or just message us on our social media. Someone will get back to you. And interested, again, so like Alex said, to see what topics you all want to talk about as we continue on with this podcast. And to all the Black girls that are in foster care that are watching today, as Tashe said, you are seen and you are heard and you are not alone. And so we want to thank everyone for joining us tonight, and we will see you all again soon. Bye, guys.